Some say done is better than perfect, but here's another truth. Done is where accidental genius just might happen. Have you ever heard of Post-it notes? Yeah, well, those were a mistake, but that mistake actually became a multi-million-dollar product. And hey, who's to say that your next accident can't be a fortune? So let's talk a little bit about perfectionism and why it's keeping you from your next great idea. Perfectionism is more than just high standards. It's a belief that nothing is ever good enough unless it's flawless. And it often sounds like, oh, I'll launch my e-commerce shop when everything is just right. But guess what? Just right never arrives. Perfectionism thrives on black and white thinking, where your work is either brilliant or worthless, a success or a failure. But creativity lives in the messy middle. It's trial, error, and discovery. And chasing perfection delays progress. You don't post your work, you don't launch your shop, you don't share your genius. What you're probably really doing is potentially protecting yourself from failure. But here's something that I think is pretty awesome, is that failure can fuel creation. Perfectionism just locks you into extremes, like limiting your exploration. It blinds you to possibilities, trapping you between great or terrible and stifling new ideas. It also breeds self-doubt, so you have that constant judgment, it's good or bad. This erodes confidence and kills creative momentum. And it also can fuel the fear of failure. When anything less than perfect feels like a failure, you avoid risk and miss the chance to grow. So perfection sounds nice, doesn't it? Who wouldn't want to be perfect? I think it was actually in the Barbie movie where she said goodbye to perfection so she can have the human experience. How did I go into both Hobby Lobby and Home Goods and did not find what I was looking for? So just FYI, I'm cooking some breakfast chicken and apple turkey links, and I'm editing the video, and I wanted to let you know that everything you see in Home Goods and Hobby Lobby, everything that's on that shelf, everything that you're buying, if that person or that creator or that artist held themselves back from putting out their product because they needed to be perfect, we wouldn't love those stores so much. We wouldn't be going into a Hobby Lobby. We wouldn't be going into a Home Goods. We wouldn't be able to have the pleasure of looking for beautiful items for our home.
You know, even for myself, when I first started this YouTube channel, I was really struggling with feeling I had to have the perfect setup. But the feeling or the thought that my setup needed to be perfect or I needed to have beautiful home decor, it really kept me from posting the video. It kept me from moving forward on YouTube. Like even right now, when I look at my screen, a black box, you know, I would love a lamp and a beautiful, you know, a plant, and you know, there's so many things I want to get for the house so it can feel homey and pretty. But what also has helped was my mindset shift. I'll share with you some of those new shifts in just a bit. In other videos, I've also mentioned building the evidence or collecting the evidence. And sometimes looking at the evidence helps you build or make a shift in your mindset. So I had to do that with myself too. And one of the ways that I started to build evidence in the fact that, oh, I don't need to have a perfect setup, or I don't need to have the beautiful, glamorous decor. I'm not saying that that won't add value or that won't be nice, but what the evidence was showing me is that, hey, you know what? Even though you want your video, your scene to look one way, audience is telling you something different, even though there's not a lot of comments. So what I do see, for example, is my retention rate has went up. Some of my most recent videos where I shot with just my iPhone and not even a good camera actually had longer retention. And for those who don't know, something that's really important for a YouTube channel is retention, and that means how long a person is continuing to watch your video. So for example, when I post this video, let's say a month later, I look back at the analytics for this video and I see a retention rate of, let's say, 80%. That means the average time people spent watching this particular video was 80%, which also tells me that people are staying longer on my videos and my setup is not as perfect as I think that it needs to be in order for people to like my videos or in order for people to watch my videos. That's evidence showing me that, okay, well, maybe to somebody it is, or maybe to somebody it's good enough, or maybe to somebody it's not even about the aesthetics, it's about the story that I'm telling or about the educational piece that I'm sharing. So I just proved to myself that even when my setup isn't beautiful or perfect the way that I think it needs to be, it doesn't mean it's not resonating with other people. And in all actuality, someone's imperfections may be the perfect message for somebody else. And the more I resonate with this message, the less threatened I feel by things not being just right.
Okay, so now come tag along with me while I go grocery shopping and share with you some of the original mindset shifts I had prior to building the evidence that actually was proving to me that, hey, I don't need the perfect setup. So here were those mindset shifts that I was telling you about earlier. Some of the things I told myself was, done doesn't mean sloppy. It means finished and functional. I had to remind myself that my message here, what I want people to gain from this, is much more important than my aesthetics. And one of my favorite questions that I love asking myself when it comes to moving forward with a creative idea is, if I were on my deathbed, what I would have wished I could have followed through with that project or that idea. And outside of my own mindset shifts, here are some practical tips to break free from perfectionism. Focus on what you could do, not who you should be. So instead of, I must finish this perfectly, you can try thinking something along the lines of, I could try this technique and we'll just see how it turns out. 2 is you can reframe your language. So shift from words like must, should, or have to prefer, want, or would like. And just notice how that shift in language lightens your creative energy. And 3 is you can find the joy in imperfection. So for instance, you can watch a comedy movie and then notice how the humor is sometimes in the flaws and the mishaps. Like look at Rush Hour 2, which we were just recently watching, and there's that that epic scene where Jackie Chan is like, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? And Chris Tucker's like, ain't nobody understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, man. And it was like, sorry for that horrible acting rendition. However, it was that barrier in language that made that scene so funny. And I like to think that creativity works in the same way. Sometimes it can be the quirks that make something that much more memorable.
All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next post.